Well, it's a beautiful Saturday. What am I up to today? Well, today I'm pretending I'm a police officer. Okay, so I live in a small town. I think 7,000 people, something like that. And we have, I think, 9 police officers, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And what I'm doing right now is typically what police officers do. When they're not in the office, when they're not out on a arrest or something like that, they drive around. And they do this for a good reason. I want to kind of make sure everything, all our surroundings are secure. There's no hankus-pankus going on. And occasionally they'll park on the side of the road, kind of like this, on a busier street. Maybe they'll pick a street that's noted for speeding, that kind of thing, and they'll just sit. And they got their radar guns, and they're checking traffic, and, you know, for an hour or better, here they sit. And right now it's like 30 some degrees out. So they got the engine running, they got the heater running, and they're parked. Now, if you know anything about mechanics, you know sitting in one spot like this with the engine idling for an hour at a time wastes a lot of fuel, plus it's really hard on the motor. You get a lot of sludge buildup. It's just not a good situation for the engine to sit and idle nonstop like this. You're going to get a lot of wash down on the cylinders because it'll tend to run a little bit richer. When I'm stopped, even though it's in drive mode, I mean this thing, when I stop, like right now, with the heater running, I'm using 2 kilowatts. Yep, 2 kilowatts, dropping to 1 once in a while. But to take off, all I do is step on the accelerator and off I go. And this thing can idle like that for up to 60 hours, I think, before the battery goes dead. So several days I could be parked on the side of the road and still have enough energy to get back to the station and plug in and charge back up in a matter of a couple hours. And this is kind of the routine of a policeman's day, is driving around town, making sure everybody's safe, listening to the radio if there's an emergency or if there's a need for a police officer, they'll respond to the call. But basically, you're driving around town. For an electric car, that is the ideal situation. They are highly efficient. In town, I'm probably getting the equivalent of 140 miles to a gallon, and zero maintenance. You know, if you include the building inspector and the councilman and whoever else is involved in the city workers who drive city vehicles, park and rec. Golf course is owned by the city. Look at all the maintenance that you have on all those gas-powered vehicles. Oil changes, brakes. I just watched the thing on the unreliability of gasoline engines that go bad at 60, 70,000 miles, and the motors are shot. And it's a chronic situation with some of these vehicles, where electric vehicles are reporting back in now 300,000-400,000 miles on the original battery. I haven't heard of any drive components going bad except for Tesla. Tesla is the only car manufacturer I know of that has coolant intrusion issues in their motors. But I believe they've even fixed that. But, you know, nobody's buying Teslas now anyway, so that's kind of a non-issue. But the point is, you know, the efficiency and the cost savings and the practicality of owning an electric car for people that mainly stay within the confines of the city is pretty remarkable at how much money you can save and how much more convenient it is all the way around. You know, the other thing too is no matter what the weather, they always start. You know, I had somebody one time, I think it was like 15 below zero, and they asked me, did your car start this morning? And I said, well, it's an electric car. I don't know, do your lights come on when you flip the switch if it's cold in the garage or whatever? It's the same thing. They always start. Always. There's no such thing as an electric car, you know, being too cold or too hot for it to start. It's always going to start. And, you know, there is a lot of, I won't say misinformation, I'll say disinformation, just made up. Basically Fox News stuff about electric cars and different things about them, and it's all bunk, all of it. They are just incredibly cheap to operate. They're dependable. You're not going to find very many negatives with electric car, especially when you compare it to the unreliable gasoline engine vehicles. You know, so the whole point is, you know, I can drive around like this. If this was my job, I could drive around like this all day long, be comfortable, and really not use up much of the taxpayers' money. I would say if I drove around like this for an 8-hour stint between being parked and driving like this, probably cost the taxpayer under $3 a day to operate this vehicle. Now, you're not going to do that with a gasoline car. In fact, a gasoline car in town, you're probably going to be lucky if you get by for $20 a day. So the question is, why don't municipalities like ours, they're in the process of buying a new car, why don't they try an electric car? Wouldn't you think that would make sense? Would make sense to me, but I think the thing that really kind of holds up the deal right now is all the misinformation and disinformation and the basic ignorance. People are just ignorant of the fact that electric cars are eternally better. There's no way I can emphasize enough how much better an electric car is than a gas car. There's very few situations where a gas car is going to be superior. In the truck region, when it comes to towing, that might be the difference. That I can understand. But even there, the majority of your truck owners don't tow anything, and if they do, it's a snowmobile trailer. I can pull a camper behind this car. I've got a pop-up camper, a 17-footer. I can pull that behind this little electric car just fine. You know, so if you're going to not buy a truck just because there was a video where somebody was pulling a Bobcat on a trailer, but you don't own a trailer or a Bobcat, what difference does it make? You know, you have to kind of use a little common sense here. But, yeah, you kind of wonder. I see gas prices are up, $3.29. I haven't bought gas for 3 years. I drive by and I look at it, and to be honest, gas is always going to be around $3 a gallon. It's going to go up and it's going to go down. You know, spring is coming, so gas is going to go up. You know, the same goes with electric. You know, I'm at 13 cents a kilowatt. If I choose to go on off-peak, I can drop that down to 8 cents a kilowatt. I'm thinking about it. But that's pretty stable. Although those prices will also probably go up, you know, because of our little bit of a dispute with Canada. You know, we get liquid natural gas, a lot of it from Canada. So when they cut us off, that's going to raise the price of electricity. And here in Minnesota, which is southern Canada, we get our electricity from Ontario. So, when they cut us off, the price is going to go up because we're going to have to get our electricity from local, I suppose, some local company. We do have a power plant in town here, but it's one of those filler plants that kicks in whenever they need, the grid needs a little extra juice. But a lot of that stuff's out of our control, except for the trade war nonsense. As long as that's still a threat, that's going to have a huge effect, I suppose. I'm just curious. Maybe someday the city will kind of wise up and maybe try to expand into the electric market and see how that works out for them. I know the golf course, which I just drove by, there's actually people that said they would consider joining the golf course if they would get rid of their gas golf cars and go with all electric ones. And it's not due to conservation or the environment or anything like that. It's just that the electric golf cars are so much better than the majority of the gas ones. I think the only gas powered golf cars that are really nice are the Yamahas, but the Yamaha electrics are superior to them. So I've got an electric golf car, and I don't think I would ever buy a gas one, because the electric one is just so smooth and quiet, and it always starts. That's the thing too, they always start, they always run. And it's just something, it's one of those things that makes a lot of sense. It's logical, and it makes there's a lot of common sense involved in it, but we tend to be rather slow on the uptick when it comes to going with logic and intelligence and science. Especially in the last 10 years, we have become somewhat backward in our thinking, I guess. But, these are just things to think about and things that we should consider. And I know if I was on the council, which I never will be because I don't want to put myself through that kind of abuse, but if I ever was part of the city council, I would raise concerns for why aren't we going with a cost-saving, more efficient way of handling our driving and our capabilities. It would make a lot of sense to me to at least give it a whirl. Maybe not for the police. Maybe the police demands on a car are much greater than I assume, but it certainly would be a logical direction to go when it comes to, like, the building inspector who just chases around town all day, or the some of the maintenance crews that just go and meter readers, that kind of thing. Park and Rec, Park and Rec uses trucks, but it's mainly to haul lawnmowers. You don't need a diesel Duramax to haul a couple lawnmowers from one park to another, or maybe a handful of weed whips, that kind of thing. I just think it would be a logical move. I just noticed something. I better check this out. Somebody the big move here, you don't see this very often. We got a Tesla parked here. Somebody's getting rid of their Tesla. Pretty car though. It's bright red, dual motor. Yeah, old Elon, boy, he really destroyed a company there in a hurry. Took him 15-20 years to build it up, and 6 weeks to completely run it into the ground. I guess it's true. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you're smart. And I'll leave it at that.